contar?
Ya, cuando quieras.
Vale. So in January, I moved in with my partner into a tiny 40 square meter apartment in the city center of Madrid. And I thought to myself, because my landlord gave me the option of repainting the walls, and I thought, that's easy. I want white walls. Our house is so tiny. I want it to feel airy and bright, and I really want to make the most of the amount of natural light that we are lucky to have. So I decided to look at the catalog of US paint and stain producer Benjamin Moore. And the truth is, I found 150 tones of white, to my surprise. And I thought, I'm never going to be able to decide what color I want for my walls. It was so overwhelming. So I decided to do some research about this, and I've got some tips for you to choose the right white, because saying I want white walls is apparently not enough. So first of all, you have to choose a color that is right for your space. I need you to be really realistic about the amount and kind of light your rooms do get throughout the day. If your house is really dark, don't go for a color that looked great under natural sunlight. Grab a couple of samples, because most paint retailers allow you to buy small, cheap samples of their paint for you to try at home before choosing one. You need to use that sample and paint over a part of the wall where you're really going to see how that color changes throughout the day and what the paint looks like in different lights. Sorry, it's not going to look the same in the morning, in the afternoon, at night. I don't know if you can see, but my landlord opted for a light gray that would contrast with the white molding on the ceiling. But the truth is, under the sunlight, it's got many bluish undertones, which I'm not particularly fond of, especially because we have quite an orangey wood flooring. And that brings me to my second tip. Think about the flooring and the ceiling, because in a rental apartment, those are the things that you're never going to be able to change. My flooring is quite a warm toned wood, whereas the walls are, as I said, this bluish tone that is typically a cool color. And this kind of contrasts make a room feel smaller. In fact, many people suggest if you want to make your room feel larger, make the walls the same color as the ceiling or the same color as the floor. If you're using maybe darker woods or a lot of gray, blues, you're going to want to go for a cool white paint. With light woods, opt for a neutral or warm tone. But again, be realistic. The floor you get in a rental apartment is the floor you're going to have to work with, because you cannot change it. Number 3 for me would be, think about the mood you want for your space. Do you want it to feel contemporary and sophisticated, really crisp and fresh? Go for a cool tone. But if you'd rather your space feel cozy, inviting, go for a warm tone. What do you want your guests to feel when they come into your room? Now, the easiest way to divide the thousands of types of white paint that exist is cool whites, that is with blue gray undertones, neutral whites, which are the whitest whites, really crisp whites, and warm whites. And when I talk about warm whites, I'm talking about whites with yellowy, pink, or even red undertones. And some of them could even be described as cream color instead of white. As I said, neutral is a white white. There are no warm or cool undertones. Now, use a neutral white to give a space a very dramatic look, especially when combined with black. That contrast makes it feel really high end. It makes a real statement. It looks sophisticated. But careful. Many people think you can't go wrong with a neutral white. It's the safest option. But in fact, the problem is when you place that really crisp white against pieces of furniture that are maybe, for example, an off-white sofa, that makes everything else look dirty. Those really white walls are going to make everything else that is not as white feel dirty or bring out its yellowy undertones. So, as I said, neutral whites, great for drama, but tricky when placed against other kinds of whites. Going back to the Benjamin Moore catalog, I would say their neutral white that is a favorite for many designers is called Chantilly lace. If you prefer a warm white, we're talking about a white with a hint of yellow, a creamy white. Make sure that you're using a warm white because you want your space to feel really comfortable. Warm whites go really well with light wood flooring, off whites, or creamy furniture. But I really wouldn't recommend it for a room with cool elements such as maybe concrete flooring, which is really modern but it's really cool, marble countertops. My favorite from, again, the Benjamin Moore catalog is called Simply White. It's really bright still, but it's a little bit creamy. An even warmer white is called Cloud White if you're really leaning into those warm whites. Now, the third type of white is, as I said, a cool white. Cool white means it's got cool undertones, blue, gray. Use it if, for example, you've got a room with a lot of natural light and you want to cool it down. Maybe rooms with blue, gray, green elements, maybe a bedroom with blue bedding. Avoid it when there's a lack of natural light or in rooms where it's gonna compete with maybe a warm oak flooring, for instance. You don't want the tones in your room to compete. You want them to create a sort of harmony. My favorite cool whites from the Benjamin Moore catalog are the Oxford white, which is slightly grayish, and decorator's white. Now, just to conclude, when you're choosing a white paint for your walls, work with the natural light you've got. Buy the sample so that you can try them out and see really what works for your space in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, at night. Work with the fixed elements you've got, especially if you live in a rental apartment. Think about the flooring, think about the mood you want to create for your space. And also remember, if you're in a tiny, tiny apartment like me, and you want your space to seem larger, then go for a white that is the same tone as the ceiling or a similar tone, because those contrasting undertones just make rooms feel smaller. And just a short reminder, don't think that a neutral white is the safest option, because if everything else in the room is not as white, it's just going to make everything look dirty. And that's it.